Hey guys, today we're going to kind of review some of the process of diagnosing, keep losing the prime on your Isuzu NPR diesel. This one's a 1999 4HE1 motor, so I'm just gonna kind of review my experience with it and how I repaired it. So we're gonna go outside to the truck, just review the components of it and how it went apart and went back together and stuff. Then we're gonna come back inside and have the old pump on the bench, and we're gonna kind of just go through some stuff to help you diagnose the problem of your own truck. So let's get out there. All right guys, we're out here at the motor of the Isuzu, and so obviously the pump's down here and here's a little hand pump to prime it. So when I was replacing this guy, here's the line that goes up to the fuel filter right here. So I had to remove this line, so I cracked it up here, and then when I was cracking it down the bottom right here, this little feed bolt right here, it was seized to this guy, and so when I undid this guy, it tweaked this line right here, and so the line was bent so bad that I had to get a new one. So I had to order that from the dealer. That thing was like, I don't know, by the time I got to the house, I think it was like 120 bucks or something like that. So that's one thing to watch out for. In hindsight, I don't know if there's a lot I could have done about that, except maybe take a small hammer if you could get it in here and tap on this first, maybe to break that free at all. And then it's got the 3 nuts that hold it on. You can see one right there, behind, right down there. There's one there, and then there's 2 at the bottom. And so you can, with a small ratchet and extension, you can just fit it in here, and the same at the bottom. And so don't bother trying to use a wrench on that. Use a socket with a small extension, just a small little guy. And then what else happened in here that was of note? Okay, so after I got this in, oh, here's another little thing right here. I had here's the oil check right here. So I took this bolt off that holds this guy on, and down the bottom right here there's a bolt or nut right here for this bracket, and I loosened that guy, and then obviously took the other fuel line off the left side over there. So when I was bleeding this guy, obviously to bleed this, you unscrew this, just turn it counterclockwise and it pops up, and then you can start pumping it. And so in hindsight, I would have done this way differently because I just tortured myself. For some reason on the pump that was broken, I could just unscrew this and bleed it right here. And I tried, after I replaced the pump, I tried doing that forever, and there was all kinds of air coming out, but it just wouldn't prime for some reason. So I screwed that back down, and then I undid this bolt right here. You know, I was careful that this was clean first, and then I undid this bolt, took this out, and then just kept priming and priming and priming, and like tons of air came out of this. And then when fluid finally came out here, I bolted it back down. I can't remember if I tried to bleed this again. I think I might have tried to bleed this again, and then that already had all the air out. And then I put this back down and screwed it in, and then got in and cranked it and started it. So let's get back to the bench and I'll show you some more particulars of it. Oh, one more thing, I took this bolt out too, and just took this all the way out, so this had a little more flex to it, and this bracket right here as well. So just these 2 guys come out, and this half comes off. So I took those out. Besides that, those are the only things I think I had to do. So let's get back at the bench. Okay, now you guys have an idea of what was going on with the pump out there, and kind of the process to replace that, and maybe some issues that you might have along the way. So I've got the old pump here. with some of the parts or whatever that came with it. And so let's just take a closer look at that. Okay, guys, so here is the old pump. And here, let's just start with this real quick and we'll get this out of the way. But I told you that the line got kinked, and here's a result of that kinkage. And I might have been able to straighten it out a little and then squeeze it so it was still usable. But I just didn't want to mess around with it. I just want to, fix it and be done with it and not have to revisit it, because I already had taken this pump off once, and the replacement pump I got was the wrong one. So I actually had to do this job twice. And then I put this one back on because I didn't want any contaminants getting into the system in the interim of getting the new pump. But one thing that I have to remind you guys about, so I got an exact match from the dealer with this part number on it, and it was actually pretty expensive, but that part did not come with this gasket right here. So I already had a gasket from the pump that I got that was wrong, so I used that gasket. So just be aware, if you're getting this part from the dealer, they are not going to supply a gasket. But what they did supply is they supplied another one of these lines that goes right here, but I just used the old one. I didn't see any reason to take this off and redo that part of it. So this was just ended up being a spare part. So one thing that you can do that in hindsight I probably would have tried, because you can just replace this little primer pump, because sometimes this primer pump fails and introduces air into the system, and this just unscrews right here. And this piece is pretty inexpensive if you buy it online. So it comes off really easy. It's accessible, especially with a crow's foot wrench. And so you just unscrew this and screw a new one on. So if you have some time and you're, not in a crunch or whatever, I might just try to replace this, and it might save you some trouble of replacing this whole assembly. So that's something to try. So just to kind of review the symptoms and stuff of my issue with this. So I obviously kept losing the prime on this, so I'd unscrew this guy, and I'd pump. And then just when I thought I couldn't pump any longer, I would push through, and then this thing would start siphoning, like, when you're siphoning gas out of a car with one of those old school siphons that you'd squeeze like this, it would be kind of like, whoosh, 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 and you could feel that in here. And then I bled it through that little screw that was up over here when I showed you the assembly in the truck. And I bled it right there, and then when the air stopped coming out, then I just stopped pumping this, screwed it down, and then I screwed this cap, and then I'd crank it a bit and it would start up. It'd run a little rough at first, but then it would run. And so when I put the new pump on, and also this, so after I primed it, it would sometimes, like, you could drive it for a while and then it may or may not keep running. You could drive it for a few miles and it might stop, and you might have to reprime it, or you could drive it all over the place and it would be fine. So I don't know why it was doing that, but it was doing that. And then, so another thing is after I replaced this pump, I went through the process of priming it and stuff, and I explained to you guys that process when I was out at the truck. But when I did it with the new pump, I would pump, and then it got to the point where it would build up so much pressure, I had trouble pushing this down to screw it back in. So it wasn't like siphoning like this one was, which might be an indication that something on this pump is bad. I don't know what that would be. I don't know if it'd be this, or I don't know what's inside of here. So that might be kind of a sign that there's a problem somewhere. If this is just pumping like a siphon, like you're siphoning out of a car once it's primed, that might be a sign that there's a problem in here. As opposed to the new one, I would pump it and it would get so stiff that I couldn't screw it down, and I would have to unscrew the little bleed screw, let a little pressure off, screw this back down, and then I could screw this pump back down. So I think that covers it. There's, there on the little fuel nuts in here, the guy that goes on this side of the pump, it has a little screen in here, so just be aware of that. And here's a little screen right here that goes in there. This little screen goes inside the pump and the pump screw over here. And I think as far as a part, oh, and then some of the, like this one came with the original kind of gasket right here, but that other pump that I got and came with these. And I'm not sure if I just dropped one of these or two of these, but I ended up using the gaskets that came with this, one on this side and then one on the other side. And so, but these are, I used two of these because I don't know, I don't know if I dropped them or misplaced them or whatever, but I ended up using two of these, which I don't know if I'm crazy about these. I like the old school ones better because I feel like over long term, these have a chance to fail. And so this pump actually failed at about 50,000. I think it was exactly at 50,000 miles, actually. It was like maybe 50,100. So this pump lasted about 50,000 miles. But in all honesty, I think this pump has had issues for maybe the last few years. So let's call it, you know, let's call it like 40,000 miles, because I don't know. I think after I replaced this, it just ran way better. So I think this might have been having some trouble for a while and just finally was like, I've had it, and it stopped working. So I think that covers all the stuff that I wanted to talk about. So that's that. All right, guys, I hope that was helpful to you. I feel like I covered a lot of stuff in a small amount of time there, but I think I had covered everything I had to say in there. And maybe that'll help you diagnose some problems with your... Oh, you know what? There was one last thing I wanted to tell you guys. So the fuel line that goes to the air-water separator, there's a metal line that goes from the tank over to the air-water separator, and then after it goes through the system, there's a return line too. And those metal lines were corroded, and I actually found a hole in one of those lines. It was like a pinhole. I mean, there was barely anything coming out, but take a look at those lines. Like the way I found it, it was just, I was like inspecting back there to see if any air was coming in, and it looked like someone just squirted oil up there and on the frame. And so there was a pinhole in that little line, and it was dripping down onto the frame. And so I just followed up, and I was like, and then you could see right above where the frame looked like someone squirted oil on it, there was a corrosion spot right there, and it looked like that had oil all over it, and that was a fuel leak right there. So I ended up, that line is not, I don't know, because of supply chain issues or whatever, but that line was not available from the dealer. They just couldn't even get it. It's not available, period. And so I just replaced that line with some ridiculously expensive fuel injection line. I probably went overboard a little because it's not like super high pressure, but I just got what was available to me at that day, and so I put the high pressure fuel line instead of that metal line just to get it up and running, because I didn't really have any options right then and there unless I took that line off and had it custom made, which I just was trying to get my truck up and running. So I think that's all of the information that I can think of to give to you guys. I hope this was helpful to you if you're having some issues with that. And thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.